Hello and welcome to Rates and Ravings. I'm John from Room 100 and these are my reviews for June of 2021. I only have two shorter things to talk about this week, but they're about as far apart on the emotional spectrum as you could possibly get. One is very relaxing and a little shallow, but it's just a very pleasant, happy experience, and the other is stress and depression and a lot of introspection as you watch the world crumble around you. But I enjoyed them both, so let's just get right into it. Miitopia is a turn-based RPG released by Nintendo for the 3DS. Originally, it was released in Japan in December 2016, then made its way over to the rest of the world in June of 2017. I'm talking about it now because it recently received a Switch port in May of 2021. I did originally buy it for the 3DS, but never played it. I had played the demo up to wherever it was. I think it was like up to the castle or something. And I really liked the demo, but once I got the full game, I just wound up never really playing it. I didn't play the 3DS that much in general. And I'm kind of glad I hadn't played it before for two very different reasons. One is I'm glad I get to go into it just totally blind and fresh. I don't remember playing the demo at all, so this is all a new experience for me, which is really great. But on the other hand, I'm happy I didn't play it before because I don't know if I would have wanted to go through this whole thing again. There's a lot of game here. For those who don't know, the core premise is extremely simple. There is a dark lord who steals everyone's faces, and you and your party of heroes are going to save everyone and defeat him. It is an extremely basic game that is primarily held up with humor and just cute little moments, and primarily the fact that everyone is Miis. You can populate the entire world with whoever you want. It will occasionally allow you to use randomly generated Miis if you just can't be bothered, but for the most part it's more fun to bring in either Miis that you created on your console or download Miis that others have created around the world. That was one of the main things that made me re-buy it, honestly, seeing all the trailers that involved the new customization options and seeing all the crazy incredible stuff that people were doing. I'm a sucker for any game that allows custom characters that lets you basically put your friend group in there, like XCOM, except for in Miitopia they don't brutally die over and over again. Though that said, as much as I love character customization, I really haven't delved into the makeup and the fancier options for my playthrough at all. I haven't really been driven to, and that's probably the fault of the simplicity of the game itself. It's borderline a mobile game. There's options to let you just auto battle and fast forward and basically just watch the game and not even play it at all. And even if you want to play it, your control over the situations is very minimal and the gameplay is very shallow. There's not much to do besides like build the relationships, buy new stuff, and take your turn when it comes up and press a button. There's not much thought to it at all, so it can be hard to pay attention even though it is a fairly low stress, relaxed game that's more so good to just kind of put on and just chill out. Even so, if I'm playing the game, I do want to be engaged in some way. This was especially tough when I started out with my character being a warrior who is basically just like a really beefy, damage heavy guy, but their speed is really slow. So for the first like quarter of my time playing the game, I was too slow to literally act at all. The rest of my party would kill the enemies and that would be it. But even with that shallowness in mind, there is a lot of gameplay here, for better or for worse. I've played for something like 20 hours or so, and from what I know, I am not even close to beating this game. I have acquired my third party of heroes at this point and done my third role for myself, which, to be fair, has been my favorite role so far as the tank. I just don't know if the game should be this long. Maybe if there's like one huge chapter after where I am that is basically the end of the game, you get to finally mix and match and use your entire huge party, maybe that will be justifiable. And I did go back and forth on even doing this review having not completed the game, but it's just, I don't think my thoughts on it are really going to change no matter how much longer I play the game. If you've played it for 5 or 10 hours, you've experienced the whole game. It's a very shallow experience with some cute humor, with some pretty cool classes and abilities. I like the tank and being able to combine your abilities with your horse. My horse was probably my favorite part of the whole thing. I made it a demon horse called Seginal, which means consume in some demonic online translator. So having him breathe fire or combining his abilities with my tank abilities was really cool, and it's moments like that where the game is a little more exciting and a little more fun to watch. But there's a lot of slow moments and a lot of repetition. But if you're looking for an extremely relaxed time killer and you want to make your friends or Nintendo characters or whatever, or Peter Griffin do stupid stuff and just kind of like bob around and occasionally fight some enemies, then this could be for you. I'm giving it a weak 6.5 out of 10, more so leaning towards a 6, but I am enjoying the game, so I would say 6.5 out of 10. So on the other end of this emotional spectrum, we have Bo Burnham's Inside, his new Netflix special. I hesitate to call it a comedy special, that was released at the end of May 2021. This is basically a project that he's been working on for the last year or so, with a heavy emphasis on the effects of the pandemic and all of the insane, depressing stuff going on in the world on his emotional state, and just kind of his ways to express that through his usual medium. I've been a fan of Bo for a very, very long time, since his earliest YouTube stuff. He's always been amazing at joke composition and just fun little wordplay and mixing that in with his music, even if a lot of that stuff, as he has mentioned, hasn't aged very well. The other two Netflix specials, What and Make Happy, I would say hold up a little bit better than that old YouTube stuff. There's still a couple moments that are but overall they're still very entertaining and very funny. But I would say as an actual like project, this is probably the strongest one that he's done. I would say this probably has the most consistently good music, just back to back compared to those other specials. Inside mixes his more classic musical comedy style with modern sound and production, along with his extremely apparent skills as a director. I think I would be totally happy to just watch him direct things forever. It's really amazing. I would say his directorial choices and a lot of his editing convey such a strong emotional impact that that's probably the strongest singular part of the whole special. The lighting, the sound, the timing with the fairly simple props, it's all great, even though there's a couple moments that go on a little bit long, which is just an issue that a lot of comedians have, or cut a little short, which was probably the intended purpose, to make it feel kind of messy and all over the place, but it still does unfortunately have that natural effect when you're watching it. I want to touch on the comedy and musical elements first, and then I'll get into the really heavy emotional stuff. I think the lyrical writing and the music is all extremely tight. There's very few misses here, though just a small personal gripe that I have. The overall sound of most musical comedy on the internet feels very generic to me now. It's all conglomerized, is that a word, into this mix of modern pop with a lot of more subtle instrumentation, along with very, very prominent 80s synth influence. And I'm just getting a little tired of that. Like, I enjoy your Chris Flemings, your Brian David Gilberts, and your Bo Burnhams now, but it's a little tiring. I wish that there'd be other genres that really became popular in that space, but I think that's also just kind of like a main musical sound in pop culture in general right now, so I guess it is what it is. I don't have a lot to say about the music individually, honestly. They're all really, really good, even the shorter, more just like little silly bit ones. Some of the stronger editing that really stuck in my mind was with FaceTime with My Mom and with White Woman's Instagram, using that aspect ratio in interesting ways, especially with Instagram, where it kind of expands when it's being a lot more real and a lot more emotionally deep, and then it pulls right back to all the silly stuff that he'd been busting on before. My personal least favorites were Unpaid Intern, if you can really count that one. I do like the bit surrounding that, but that was the main moment of the special where I thought, okay, this is going on a little long. It definitely could have been cut down just a bit. And the other one would be Problematic, which was a song that I felt he definitely had to make. I understand completely why he made this, and I think it is still a very funny, entertaining song, but it's just it's just one of my least favorites. My favorite by a mile is Welcome to the Internet. It's just so me and my style. I think it is great. It's my favorite song for sure. I've been listening to it nonstop. The two Bezos songs are really catchy, and if I can take a moment to be weirdly deep about them, I think they kind of work on three main levels. The first being that they are definitely just fun little synth jingles that he came up with, and he wanted to put something silly behind it. But I suspect, like me, when I'm making something silly like that, it started at that very basic level and went deeper from there. I wouldn't be surprised if the two other main factors behind these songs are, one, that you can make anything catchy with just like an upbeat synth score. Like, these billionaires are ruining the planet, but as long as you have a sick synth solo in there, then everyone's gonna forget about it and sing their name. And the other aspect is, I think, maybe a commentary on the general like 80s synthwave thing in general. A lot of it is so tied to the dystopian, like cyberpunk kind of thing. And I think it's the idea he might have been trying to get at. This is probably total BS, but like maybe he was getting at the concept of like, it's not necessarily great that these are so popular because they are inherently tied with the death of our planet and society, basically. But again, that's probably total nonsense. My other favorite song was Goodbye. I think it's just really pleasant, and it had some great imagery at the end there. Now let's get into the more emotional stuff and how highly relatable that I found this. There's so many little moments that I really felt, and it was not necessarily in a good way, because God, this thing is depressing. Like, don't go in expecting just like a fun, lighthearted thing like What, or even Make Happy got a little darker here and there, like lying on the floor surrounded by all the wires and equipment. Something about that visual was really striking to me, and again, relatable. The general progression of the special, going from comedy and kind of staying on task with the project, moving towards full-blown depression and anxiety, I thought was a really great way to do that, and very relatable, not only in the creative process, but during the pandemic. Culminating with Funny Feeling and All Eyes on Me, really exploring kind of just how messed up everything is, depression, anxiety, derealization. All Eyes on Me feels like the real end of the special, but it kind of feels like if Mike Hemm's The Black Parade ended on sleep. Just that total apathy, feeling of giving in to despair, grabbing for any kind of control. I don't know. That song's rough. Like, it's a really well-made song, but it's tough to have that so close to the ending of the special. Tons of other relatable themes that are talked about here, like the impact of social media, which is something that Bo has really been talking about a lot, very consistently in both his work and in interviews. Things like 8th Grade also touch on this, the idea of living your life, watching your life, directing yourself for the future to remember. A lot of these really weird meta things that really screw with people's brains. I think you really get that on him reacting to Unpaid Intern, and the constant cutaways to him, I guess, in the editing process or watching the things that he has recorded, where it's just this constant state of being an observer to your own life and thinking about it in terms of other people's eyes and not just being there to live your life. And of course, depression, a massive theme of the whole thing, and as someone who struggles with depression, found it extremely relatable, very painfully relatable. There's tons of moments, especially when towards the end, like right before All Eyes on Me, those were some really rough moments that I felt very much so. And along with those, he touches on some broader anxieties and worries that he has about the world, like with civil rights and income inequality. But the biggest one that seemed to recur through the most songs and bits was the climate crisis, and just, climate change in general. And since that is one of the main concerns that I have on the grander scale, like just outside of my own personal anxieties and depression, the fact that came up so much just, made me relate to it even more. The most shocking, I guess, part for me was watching it and understanding completely where he was coming from with a lot of it, and then being hit by something that I didn't even realize that I also felt. Throughout the special, he talks about just kind of wanting to get it done, wanting to keep working on it, just so people can see it, he can get it out there. But there was a moment that really stuck with me.
Because if I finish this special, that means that I have to not work on it anymore, and that means I have to just live my life. And so I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to not finish the special. I'm going to work on it forever, I think.
The way he comes to that realization of like, this project is extremely stressful and it's a lot of work. I don't want it to be done because I want to just be in my work and making things, and I don't want to have to just experience the world. Something about that really struck a chord with me in a way that I haven't thought about. He phrased it in such a way that I've never really considered, but it, like I said, struck a chord with me. It's hard to tell how much of those really emotional moments where his breakdowns and things like that are completely genuine, like behind the scenes video, or how much is a little bit staged or anything like that. But in the end, I don't think it really matters, because the emotional impact is there 100%. And that's also kind of the point with social media and with projects like these. With anything, this is all the same experience. So I think I would recommend this. It's really good, and the songs themselves, I would say if you don't want to watch the full special, go listen to the songs on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. Like, they're really good and they're worth your time. I would say you should check this out. Don't expect to rewatch this a lot or anything. I definitely haven't rewatched it yet. Just know what you're getting into. It's a very heavy experience, and so if you're not ready for that kind of thing, it can definitely mess you up. But I would absolutely recommend it. I think it is extremely well made. It gets a great point across, and I think he's honestly at the top of his game. So I'm giving Inside an 8 out of 10. All right, so that is it. A couple ending side notes. There's 2 Nintendo things that I will most likely talk about next time, being Game Builder Garage and the new Mario Golf game. Game Builder Garage I do have my hands on. I've been working my way through the tutorials, but I haven't made anything of my own yet. And as of recording this, Mario Golf has not come out yet. So I don't really have anything to say about them right now, but I will probably talk about them next time. Maybe I'll come back to Miitopia in the side notes of next time too, if I finish it by then. There's also the new Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It. Would definitely like to watch that. The Conjuring movies, if you go back and watch my kind of horror movie roundup, the Conjuring movies are okay. They're moderately enjoyable. I've also watched a bunch of the Annabelle movies, which are definitely worse. So I'm curious to see how this one is. And there's also some Marvel stuff coming up. At this time, I have seen the first 2 episodes of Loki. I think that show's going really well. The production and the sound and stuff is all really great. And it's actually really nice to watch him again. I was afraid it would feel a little bit out of time. Like, it's past the point where I care about Loki, but it's actually really great to watch it so far. So that will probably be in the next episode, and maybe Black Widow as well, which is finally coming out next month. I think that's everything. My brain is still kind of reeling from E3, which just happened a couple days ago as of recording. There was a lot of stuff, basically only from Nintendo, that is on my mind right now, and it's not coming out for like a good few months, but it's still so fresh in my mind that I have no idea what's coming out when. So I might have missed something, but those should be the main things. If you have any thoughts on anything that I've talked about, be sure to share them in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all the stuff that I'm making. And as always, thanks for watching.